Welcome to Global Tax Talks Tax in 60 Seconds. I'm Will Morris, and here are some things to watch out for in the coming week. Things were seeming quite quiet several days ago until, over the weekend, the issue of Greenland re-emerged, with President Trump threatening tariffs against several European countries who had sent token detachments of troops to the island. The tariffs were to be 10% to start off with, rising to 25% in the summer. He also talked about taking control of Greenland one way or another, which caused European parliamentarians to talk about not moving forward on last summer's US-EU trade deal, and led President Macron to call for the invoking of the EU anti-coercion initiative, which would have allowed for actions against not just tangible but also intangible goods, including in the tech and finance space. Thankfully, at least as at the time of filming, things seem to have calmed down a bit, and the folks at Davos can breathe a sigh of relief. But it was a reminder, given our short memories, that A, things can change very quickly, and B, that trade is driving the bus. For example, it is hard to imagine many European parliaments would have been quickly legislating the side-by-side agreement viewed as highly advantageous to the US under such circumstances. So, keep your eyes and ears open. On the side-by-side agreement, even as the geopolitics shook the world stage, businesses continued to raise questions about aspects of the package. Of increasing interest is what exactly the stocktake will look like. Is it a stocktake of just the side-by-side package or Pillar 2 more generally? The US Treasury has said definitely the latter, but there is a concern among some businesses that this could just be a 3-year pause or truce until another push to impose the UTPR is made. And feeding into that concern is when might the stocktake take place? By 2029, the release says, but some OECD officials have been saying in 2029. That's not just an academic question, however, because if by means by the start of 2029, that will take place under the current administration, while in 2029 would be under 345 days of a new administration. Another question coming up relates to the QDMTTs. They do seem to be the enforcement mechanism now for Pillar 2 when the UTPR isn't available. So can countries decide to turn them into non-qualified DMTTs or even to get rid of them completely? While even under the EU GMT directive, the QDMTT is elective, the side-by-side package documents seem to place a heavy thumb on the scale for countries to keep their QDMTTs as is, while US Treasury has indicated that that is a question for every sovereign nation. Again, we'll see. And a third set of questions are springing up around the substance-based tax incentive safe harbor. One of those relates to whether and how countries will adopt more incentives that match the requirements of the safe harbor to boost benefits for business, subject, of course, to the cap. Expect to see quite a lot more on this in the coming months. And the other question relates to the US. While US HQ groups are covered by the side-by-side agreement, businesses investing into the US are not. So there is obviously an interest in ensuring that US incentives also qualify when received by those inbounds. We'll see. Finally, the question has come up of whether potential US Code Section 899 is dead. That's really a metaphysical question. But at least for the moment, it is not being talked about at all, subject to the side-by-side package moving along, of course. But more practically, there has been discussion in the US as to whether another reconciliation bill could be passed in the next year. And the majority view seems to be that that would be very difficult, if not impossible. But, as noted above, anything can happen, and especially in a US election year. Anyway, thanks for joining me, and come back next week so that you stay global tax ready.